Hello, welcome to What is this weapon? I'm Jonathan, and this is the iconic British L1A1 Self-Loading Rifle, part, of course, of the Belgian FN FAL family, Fusil Automatique Léger, light automatic rifle. We also have prototypes of this. We have a video on that in 280, or what's now called 280 British, which was the Carbine Universal Carbine, which was much more of a, quote, assault rifle. It evolved into more of a, quote, battle rifle, to use that phrase, and the EM2 bullpup lives in the middle of that story, but we're not here for that. We're here for the thing that won, and the particular reason for featuring this is one of a number of serial number ones that we have in this collection. If you visit the museum, you will see in our Firefight Second World War exhibition, serial number 1 Bren gun. We have a serial number 1 Luger. We have the first ever SA-80 ever made, Alpha 000001, and we have this. So there's a plaque here, as if we didn't know, to tell us what it is. And that says RSAF, Royal Small Arms Factory, Enfield, rifle 7.62mm L1A1, made to sealed drawing, dated 1st of March 1957, sample from first batch of quantity produced rifles, completed on 30th of May 1957. Let's just show you that plaque. Very shiny. Always helpful when people tell you things on the object itself. However, we have more evidence to show you in a second, but that's nice to have. And then they're actually underselling that, if anything, because it isn't just one of the first batch. It is UE57 Alpha 1, the very first one off the production line, which is amazing. So for those of you who aren't aware, U is United Kingdom, because in theory, small arms could be made in other countries and sometimes were. B for Belgium, for example. E for Enfield, or the Royal Small Arms Factory. 57 for 1957, as you will no doubt have guessed. And Alpha 1 is just one way of saying serial number 1. By the time of the SA-80, they decided that L85A1 Alpha 1 would be Alpha, I think it's 6 zeros and a 1, because they were anticipating the production block. Here, they've literally just gone A1. We also have 1957 again, further down the receiver, and what is actually an EFD overlaid. So the E, the F, and the D all rolled into one mark that looks a bit like a weird D. That's just Enfield's kind of, well, they weren't strictly a company, but a corporate style mark, really. By this point, we're not getting the rather nice royal cipher that we see on serial number 1 Bren gun, but nonetheless, these are nice markings to have. Oh, we also have an inspector's mark, IA for Inspector of Armaments, or Inspectorate of Armaments, in between those two markings there. All the markings are on the left side of this, pretty much. Obviously, the plaque is on the right side of the butt. Then at the back, we have rifle 7.62mm L1A1 again, and we have a long number beginning 1005, which is the national stock number or NATO stock number. And that's something you'll typically see on NATO firearms. Not all of them by any means, but the British tended to put it on theirs. So if you look that up in the central list, it will probably say rifle self-loading, L1A1. Actually, it might be even more generic than that. I'll have to look that one up just to be sure what it does say. Otherwise, we just have, we have individual numbers, drawing numbers, inspection marks, broad arrows, that kind of thing. But they're fairly they're pretty much run of the mill. Those are the unique markings. It's in pretty spectacular condition. There's a bit of a ding on the top cover, unfortunately. Not sure when or how that happened, but not on our watch. Otherwise, it's pretty pristine with the classic black Suncorite paint finish over a phosphate. And the configuration is completely standard. So nice walnut furniture at this era, replaced in the early 70s onwards by the foam-filled nylon with the sort of textured finish, but the weapon itself didn't change, remained L1A1 for its whole career, 1957 right through to 1991, when it was finally withdrawn from service. Some of these did go to the Gulf. There are more of these than I realised when I went back and looked at photos and film of the time. A number of units still using these. The British features that are unique to the L1A1, these are well documented elsewhere, but we'll quickly run through them anyway. Not unique to per se. In fact, a lot of them are shared with the Canadian version of the SLR, and of course the Australian is another cousin of those. So we have this long birdcage type flash suppressor with the bayonet lug. The FAL family runs from just a plain muzzle to various different types of flash suppressor. The gas regulator is fairly standard, at least for the inch pattern rifles. Always amuses me because it literally goes to 11.
Because if you can see, the numbers all go to 11. Look.
Bit of a Spinal Tap reference in itself there. So from 0 to 11, so gas shut off for grenade launching, all the way up to maximum adverse setting 11. It was essentially a way round reliability issues with the early prototypes, but a perfectly valid way to tackle it. Sometimes we see FAL rifles in conflict zones where people aren't trained on them and they clearly have this on the wrong setting and they don't work properly. Between that and the sand cuts on the bolt carrier, that really helped this thing's reliability in mud and sand. Sand for this anyway. And it finally overtook the EM2 on the reliability front and became the better option. It was a lot cheaper than the EM2, less complex, longer, a bit heavier, but ultimately a great compromise. And for many people, much more than a compromise. This thing is universally loved. You won't hear a British Army veteran, and probably other Commonwealth armies as well, ever say a bad word about it. We have the folding cocking handle up here, which is a great change from the Belgian original. So we pull that out, operate the cocking handle, which is non-reciprocating. So left side, this is extremely stiff with grease, by the way, but left side within nice, easy reach, very ergonomic setup, and you let it go full travel, it folds itself forward. If not, you can fold it yourself. It's exactly where you want it to be. A lot of modern rifles copy this sort of situation. Magazine catch, greatly enlarged over the standard FAL. Excellent choice to do that. On the standard FAL, it's on this side and a little bit tiny, so still protected enough to not easily be bumped by your kit or foreign objects. Nice and big. You can come in here with your support hand and do magazine changes. Excellent change there as well. Notably, the fire selector, or change lever in British terms, goes from safe, S, to R, repetition, and then no further. Stops there. It's physically barred by the upper receiver there. Substantially, the trigger mechanism remained unchanged otherwise, and so it was possible to jerry-rig it to operate in automatic, which was done certainly in the Falklands, sometimes other times as well. Strictly illicit, not recommended. You'd be in trouble if you did it, but the infamous matchstick trick to force it to go automatic. But the standard weapon could not do it, and there was really no value added by making it automatic, which is why that feature was deleted from the British self-loading rifle. Full auto in 7.62 or 51 is fairly pointless, depending on your specific role. Some modern self-loading rifles in 7.62 do it, notably the HK417. It's there as an emergency thing. But yeah, for a standard issue infantry rifle, sound choice to remove it. The Americans did the same thing with the M14. That was capable of automatic. They did not typically issue the average rifleman with the switch. The rear sight also changed. Now this I'm not personally convinced of, but I'm sure veterans will have a view on that. The fact that it folds, so part of the drills, check sights, you flip up the sight. That's fine, it worked fine, you trained around that. It's a little bit vulnerable, so we don't have the sight protectors. And that's not uncommon. There's the fixed FAL sight is similar to this, but a little bit more robust, so it can't be bent and damaged too easily. The para FAL sight seems to me the ideal arrangement with nice big sight protectors like you typically get on a rear sight. So I would not personally, had anyone asked me, I wasn't born yet, but I might have said go for a adjustable rear aperture. By all means, this one is adjustable on a ramp, by the way. So you'd set the sights to the range you're expecting to engage at as part of that drill. It's just folding to keep it protected when it's folded, and usable when it's up. And those are the main features. Completely standard, as I say, but we're very, I don't use the word blessed typically, but I really think we are with this one. We also have prototypes, the X8, E1, X8, E2 developmental rifles that sit between that original 280 prototype and the ultimate adopted L1A1. We have various interesting, various variants that we could potentially show you in future as well, but wanted to dive in on this one. So there we are, serial number 1 SLR. A shorter episode, however, what we'd like to do next week is to show you a wonderful archive film from the Royal Small Arms Factory, filmed sometime in the 1960s. You'll get to see the whole thing without interruption and relate what I've been talking about here with the first one ever made to how they were all made. Thanks for watching this video, guys. Please do remember to like, comment and subscribe, all the usual YouTube stuff. It does help us out. Please come and visit one of our 3 museums here in the UK if you can. We'd love to see you in person. If you do, we have wonderful shops on site. If you can't, we also have an online shop which is well worth checking out. Other social media platforms, of course, we're present across just about all of those. And do keep an eye on those social media channels and on our website for any events that might be coming up at any of those sites. But whatever you do, please join us here again on What Is This Weapon next week.
What we do is if we need that extra push over the cliff, you know what we do?
Put it up to 11.
11, exactly. 1 louder.
Why don't you just make 10 louder and make 10 be the top number and make that a little louder?
These go to 11.